Hey everyone, this is New York Cine Radio. I am your host Tom Seymour, and Ken Powell is here as well. And we have Dave Lute, and we're here with filmmaker Neil Breen, director of such popular cult films as I Am Here Now, Double Down, and the brand new Fateful Findings. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
So I've actually seen all three of your films. I watched Fateful Findings for the second time, which I really like.
Good,
Um,
thanks.
would you be willing to talk about how you first got started in filmmaking?
Sure, sure. I know we're a little limited on in time, so I'll make it as brief as possible. Um, I've never gone to film school, which may or may not be obvious, but I have an absolute passion for it, and always have since I was a little kid. I did go to college and studied architecture.
Oh wow.
Graduated college, became a licensed architect, worked as a licensed architect, love architecture, doing large commercial buildings. And it was always my intention in my big grand plan that I would save my money that I made as an architect. And it's that money and only that money that I use to self fund all three of my feature films.
Oh wow.
I've never had any investors, so I am definitely committed to it and have a passion for it. So you had mentioned Double Down. Double Down was my first feature. I did that, I think, about 7 or 8 years ago. But Double Down was my own self-imposed film school.
Yeah.
I'd obviously gone online and studied and read as much as I could, but
What
I
did you guys
essentially jumped right into it.
what did you guys shoot on for Double Down?
I actually shot Double Down on 35.
I mean, it looks fantastic. I saw it, and because I'm a big film nerd. I'm a filmmaker too, and I
Yeah.
was looking at it, and I was like, I think this is like the. I thought it was either 16 Super 16 or 35, but it looked
No,
really good.
it's interesting because, like I said, I shot it about 8 years ago, and it was right during the transition of people beginning to end shooting, low budget people like myself, indies, ending shooting their features in 35 and transitioning to digital.
Right, right.
So I wasn't familiar enough with digital to do it in digital, but I had set up, I bought my own Arri 35, and I had my own 35 editing equipment, all
Wow,
in preparation, like I said, for doing this myself.
that's incredible. Did you cut some of it, or did you?
I did some preliminary cuts. I did not do the final cut.
Oh
I
wow,
hired an editor to do the final cut.
cool. Now, like a lot of your films encompass government corruption or the collusion between big business and government. And is that something that you had personal feelings about, or did you just see it as a good plot device?
No, actually, I do. I think, like we all have, to one degree or another, personal feelings. A common thread, and obviously, if I write all three films, it must be in my head somewhere. But a common thread in all of my films, without being repetitious, is are three elements actually. One is sort of a mysticism or a paranormal element. A second one is um a social commentary, which is what you're referring to.
Right.
And a third is kind of a lost love or lost romance kind of element in life. And those three elements, the social commentary, the mysticism, and the romance, for lack of a better term, or lost romance, are really common in all three of my films. Um, I just find them interesting. As far as the social commentary goes, I don't try to tell people what's right or wrong. I don't preach to people.
Yep.
I just sort of lay out. something that I think is interesting and thought provoking.
Now,
On
did
all three levels, whether it be the paranormal, the romantic, or the social commentary slash political side of things.
now at some point did you ever have a reaction to the idea that some of your audience was finding humor in it that wasn't
Oh,
necessarily intentional, or I mean, was there? Uh, how do you feel about that?
well, I feel fine actually, and I understand what you're saying. None of the films were written to be quote unquote humorous. In fact, it's interesting when I used to go to see the first screenings of films like Double Down and I Am Here Now. I'd be in the back of the theater listening to the audience, and through the first half of the film, the audience may chuckle at parts that I never intended, but in the second half of the film, they sort of begin to get it, and there's no more chuckles.
Right.
Um, and I should, and that's fine with me. I totally embrace the cult, you know, aspect of my films, the cult audience aspect of my films. I'm not hurt by it. I'm not disturbed by it or anything like that. In fact, from my point of view, and you come from an interesting perspective in that you've seen all three films.
Mm-hmm.
The first film, Double Down, was really, for lack of a better term, I mean, I've always tried to do them as professionally as possible, but obviously it was my first film and it's got some what may be called amateuristic sides to it that people chuckle to. And I Am Here Now is the same, but to a lesser degree. And Fateful Findings is the same, but to an even lesser degree. Um,
So, Fateful Findings.
yeah.
I if I'm not mistaken, I think I may have read something online where you said that you felt Fateful Findings was a bit of a departure compared to the first two. Is that true, or do you feel like that?
Well, it's not, well, it is a departure, but like I said earlier, I purposely don't try to, one's not a sequel to the next, and I don't repeat characters from one film to the other.
Yeah.
I try not to repeat themes of films from one to the other. I guess maybe what I was saying was that Fate Double Down, the first film, was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It established this cult status.
Yep.
I Am Here Now built on the cult status, but from my point of view, it was 1,000% better than filmed Double Down.
Yeah.
Fateful Findings is building even more momentum on the cult status, but from my perspective, as producer, writer, and director,
Mm-hmm.
and funder, it's 5,000% better than I Am Here Now. So I see, and I think the audiences see a progression, for lack of a better term, in my development as a serious filmmaker. I'm committed to doing this. This is not a whim for me. Fateful Findings has become a profitable film. Um,
Yeah, it's playing all over. Is it playing in most major cities or?
yes, yes, yes. In fact, next weekend it opens in San Francisco. The weekend after that, it opens in Boston. It was in LA and New York last weekend. And every weekend, it's in different cities. I mean, and it repeats theaters. It's in Toronto. It's in God knows where, Seattle. I mean, Austin,
I also
Cincinnati, Cleveland.
I also think it's this kind of success for independent film theatrically is actually very rare these days, and I think it's so that's got to be a pretty good feeling.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I embrace the notoriety that it's getting. You're absolutely right. Most guys make low budget indies, and it goes straight to DVD, and the DVDs never even sell. And I really, once again, I'm my own marketer and PR person, and uh, I purposely submitted it to film festivals a year ago that I thought would be sensitive and in tune with what I was doing. And it's the film festivals and the playing in the festivals that labeled it as this cult favorite. That wasn't me doing any marketing. That whole cult status started in the festivals, and obviously the reason for going to festivals is to attract legitimate theatrical film distribution, which is how I got my film distribution deal for the United States and Canada.
Wow. Hey.
And let me back up and say one more thing, and then I'll take your next question. I'm a big believer. I'm a professional person. I'm not an amateur. Um, I'm a big believer in doing things professionally. All three of my features, even though they're low budget indie features that I paid for myself, they were all done as professionally as possible. Everyone on the cast and crew of all of my films was paid. Most were paid SAG minimums, even though it's not a SAG film. Um, my equipment was all state of the art, professional equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I didn't use friends and family to cast it. My film was cast going through normal casting notices, et cetera, et cetera, all in an effort to try to achieve the highest production values possible
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
relative to the budget I had and locations available to me, and so on.
Um. Actually, yeah. Before we get into the budget, I'd be curious to hear some of the budgets on the films. But um, if is there one thing you need your audience or other people to know about you or your films?
Well, I'm what's the best way to put this? I I think one of the best comments early on in reviews about my films was that they were genre defying. In other words, my films don't fall into a specific genre. They're not just horror
Yep.
or just paranormal or just anything. They're a blend of genres: the paranormal, the romantic, the political, using Fateful Findings as an example. That's where my head is. I have I'm not into making slasher films. I'm not into making teen coming of age films. It's not where my head is.
Yep. Yep.
And if I can only write what's in my head and my heart and what I have a passion for. I want my films to be entertaining. I want them to be thought provoking. I want them to, you know, make a social comment, without being necessarily politically correct or anything like that. That's where I'm coming from.
You know what you know what I think's actually pretty awesome is I love cult films. I love all of them. I love Lloyd Kaufman stuff. I love the Room, Troll 2, all these films. But
Yeah,
what I think's really I always call them cinematic unicorns because they're so rare and they come along. They don't come along very often, and it's always someone who's absolutely trying their best to make the film. It's not contrived.
right.
And what I think is amazing, you've actually made 3 of these cult films. And all those other directors, I don't think any of them have. And is it, when did you become aware that you actually had this cult following?
Well, like I said, literally, the very first major festivals that showed the film labeled it in their reviews quote unquote the next cult classic.
Nice. Nice.
That's where it came from. Everybody then in the festival network picked up on that. And then when it went theatrical, obviously that tag was put on it to garner, theatrical audiences.
What were the but if you don't mind talking about budget wise ballpark, what were some of the
Now,
budgets?
budget producers, low budget indie producers like myself should never talk about budgets
Oh, that's
because
fine. Yeah.
budgets are really irrelevant. My immediate comment back to someone like you is, I'm not going to tell you what the budget is. You tell me, and you don't have to tell me, but I mean in your own head, you tell me what you think the budget was. You tell me what you think budgetarily it took to create and make that film look the way it looks, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
you really,
I wouldn't guess.
right?
I couldn't. I couldn't guess. I couldn't.
Well, that's what I mean, and I
Yeah.
don't care, and it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because the downfall of somebody put, and it's like anything, when you put a label on something. If I said to you, I made that budget for 50 million, I mean, I made that film for $50 million, you'd say, oh my God, did he throw his money away? Or if I said, I made that film for $50, you'd say, oh my God, he's a friggin' liar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
No,
I
I
mean,
gotcha.
so
I
the
agree.
money,
I agree.
the number doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, Let me, as a side note to that, kind of a backstory, real quick. I don't know if you noticed in the credits or not of the film, of all three films, I personally did everything.
Yeah. There's. Yeah. Yeah. I did notice that. Absolutely.
So, and obviously, I'm not paying myself what a cinematographer, editor, music score person, craft and services person, right on down the line is getting.
Right.
I made those props myself. I served lunch to the cast and crew every day myself. I don't
Wow.
have a staff. I'm literally a one-man show.
I think that's
So,
awesome. Yeah.
but
That's.
I knew going into it once again with all three films that that's the only way I was going to get this accomplished, and I was committed and still am committed to getting it accomplished. Let me tell you, I've just completed a 20 page outline of my fourth film.
Really awesome.
Which will be made. This fourth film will literally blow people's minds. It,
Does it have a title yet, or?
no, no, no. I'm not even
Okay.
going to discuss it.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
mean, I mean, even it's unbelievable, really. I mean, it's a whole different strata for me. But anyway,
Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. 'Cause that was gonna be one of our questions, but
yeah.
do you have anything in the works? But that's really exciting. Um, let's see. Do you have what are your inspirations? Do you have any favorite filmmakers?
Everybody asks me that, and in all honesty, I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I love movies. I watch almost all of them, primarily on TV or online. I only really go to theaters to see movies that have to be seen in a theater, whether it's for 3D or some huge spectacle or something like that. But everyone says, who's your favorite director? Who's your favorite this? Who's your favorite writer? I really don't. I love all of them. I mean, I don't like some of them. I love bits and pieces of some, and I don't like bits and pieces of others. But there's not one or two or three directors that have just totally influenced me and set me off on one direction or another.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, is there anything we missed? Is there anything you like to promote?
Yeah, actually, it's very important, once again, because I'm my own person here. The film has its own website, and I'd like everybody to go to that website. I've just put up 8 new reviews on the film, and I think there's like 30 reviews of the film on there now. But the website address is www.fate, FATEFUL, findings dot biz. If everybody goes there, they can contact me directly through that site. I also have a Neil Breen Facebook page. I also have a Fateful Findings Facebook page that you can go and click like on and like the page. And I post the weekly uh, theatrical screenings in the United States and Canada on that Facebook
Oh,
page.
great, great. So they can
Yeah,
find out
so
where it's
you'll
screening.
see them all there. Um, but I'm real excited. The feedback has been fantastic. I appreciate what you guys doing are doing.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite film of the year. I mean, if you judge film by how much you enjoyed it, how much you reflect back on it, and it is. It's my favorite film of the year. So
Well,
I
thanks.
think it's
I
great.
really, I mean, obviously, I'm not making 300, $100 million movies, but I am honestly, sincerely doing the best I can with it, with the resources that I have, both physically and financially. And I just more than appreciate, you know, and appreciate is the right word. The responses that I'm getting creatively, enthusiastically, because the audiences are building. I played to another 150 or so people last Friday or Saturday night in LA, and on a repeating basis. I mean, people are coming.
Yeah, they keep coming back to it for sure. Well,
Yeah,
Neil, thanks so much for doing the interview. And just so you know, you always have an open invite to come back on the show anytime you want to promote, drop
sure.
in, talk about anything.
Okay, feel free to contact me anytime.
Awesome.
And I appreciate getting the link for it when you're ready.
Absolutely. I'll send
Uh,
it. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.